Right, so our second speaker this evening is Ekpah, who is an entomologist at the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. He holds a master's degree in applied entomology and has worked in conjunction with the Rufford Foundation and the Wildlife of Africa Conservation Initiative in various capacities, including in project management, conservation education and outreach, planning, monitoring, and more. And today he's going to be sharing his experience in developing a conservation strategy for a very special little insect, which is the Yellow Waxtail Damselfly. So Ekpah, it's wonderful to have you sharing with us this evening. Hopefully the sound is all sorted now.
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. I am here to discuss my experience in surveying and developing a conservation strategy in favor of the endangered Yellow Waxtail Damselfly, Ceriagrion citrinum in Nigeria. Okay, so let me share again. Okay, all right. So the Ceriagrion citrinum is not difficult to recognize in Nigeria. You see that the thorax is green, and then the abdominal segment is yellow, and towards the end it gets darkened. This species was first introduced to me in February 2019 by KD. The species was first described by Campion in 1914. This species is endangered according to the IUCN Red List. So what I did was to write a proposal as part of my master's thesis of the University of Lagos in favor of the conservation of Ceriagrion and citrinum. This species, according to record, was last sighted or last recorded in Nigeria in 1972 in Sapomba Forest Reserve in Benin, Edo State, Nigeria. And then it was also recorded in the nearby Benin Republic, in 2002. All right, so the first activity was to begin to look for this species, and we saw it. We started the search for this species in Lekki Conservation Center or Lekki Conservation Forest. And the period of from the period of May to December 2019, we saw a total of 25 species of dragonflies, of which Cacosteba flavifrons and Ceriagrion glabrum were the most dominant species of dragonfly recorded in the forest. This Lekki Conservation Center is not really a good biotype for chlorocipher species. We managed to see a single chlorocipher in the forest, and this is the chlorocipher that you can see on the picture here. And this is found iridipenis, which is very common in Lekki Conservation Center. So I proceeded to the Oban Hill in Cross River National Park. In Oban Hills, where I surveyed the Mango River in one of the hills. And then I couldn't find Ceriagrion citrinum there, but I saw some very important species. For example, the Africocipher Lacus elephantum, which is vulnerable, as well as the Pentapleba stali. And I was able to do a publication titled Records of Lost Species, Records of Lost and Associated Species of Odonata in Cross River National Park. And so most of these species were new records to the park. And here we have Mesocnemis singularis, just resting on the rock here. And here we have the vulnerable Pentapleba stali. I'm just holding it on my hand here. So fortunately, I discovered Ceriagrion citrinum in Omo Forest. Now, not actually in Omo Forest, but in where they call Igele Smoge Creek. If you look at this map properly, you'll see that this yellow spot here is the exact location where Ceriagrion citrinum was found. It was found perching on vegetation along the Sumoge River. So this is the river here. So on this river, by just taking canoe and through this river, you will discover so many species of dragonflies resting along the vegetation, among which is the endangered and Ceriagrion citrinum. So these are the sampling points where we actually saw more of the species. So we indicated them as Igele Sumoge Creek 1 to 4. So, and then here we have the biotype. In this forest, this is what we have. The biotype C here is like a swamp forest within that lies within the river, the Sumoge River here, where we found. But unfortunately, we didn't see any Ceriagrion citrinum within this swamp forest. I only saw Ceriagrion citrinum along the river here, where they were found perching on the vegetation. So here is another biotype within the forest reserve. This is where they call the Eri Camp. It goes to in fact, they call it NCF Road. So it goes to Eri Camp here. This particular spot is very rich in butterfly species, as well as some dragonflies. And most of the dragonflies that are very common in this locality is the Sappho ciliata. All right, so and here, so this is the Google Earth map of the location. So you will, once you take the Shagamu or Expressway, and then there's a junction, they call it J4 junction. You take to your left, you take to your right on this road until you arrive at this bridge, and then when you descend down this bridge, you can take a canoe, and then you just take your journey through this river until you get to Sumoge. So here is Sumoge. So the village, the residents are actually within this village that is called Sumoge. But before you get to Sumoge, you can see a lot of dragonfly species along this river on vegetations, of which you can also find Ceriagrion citrinum. All right, so once we have discovered that Ceriagrion citrinum was found in Sumoge, the next activity was to develop conservation plan and to implement a conservation plan in favor of this species. So these are the dates here indicates the period where the activity was carried out. So in January 14th, there was what we call project buy-in. Here we met with the community head. We call him Bale. So we discussed about the conservation plan and what we have in mind to do to protect the endangered Ceriagrion citrinum. And then we're able to convince the community head that these species are very important to them. For example, that they feed on mosquitoes and they are able to reduce the population of mosquitoes in their locality. So in January also, 15th of January, I surveyed the entire forest again along the river, and then I saw 15 species of Odonata, as well as the very scarce hydrotemis. So these are the activities. For example, here we shared a questionnaire. We administered questionnaire to the residents just to check their ecological knowledge towards dragonflies. And unfortunately, most of them, in fact, like 60% of the residents do not have an idea of what dragonflies are. Oftentimes they see them and they ignore, they just pass by because it is of no significance to them. So they don't know. So, but more than 50% of them were able to tell us that they can, more than 50% of them do not know Ceriagrion citrinum, but they actually told us that they will be able to protect it if they are educated. So in February, the survey was carried out also, and then in the survey we saw two species of Ceriagrion citrinum and 12 species of dragonflies were observed. The full list of the dragonflies are already there in the database. So, and then the questionnaires that were also administered, and the information about the species were collected and were put on social media platform, and we got a lot of likes. All right, so and then in March there was distribution of project materials. So what we gave to we engaged the children of the community of Sumogé community by giving them the project T-shirts, and then the school bags, and then there was capacity building for them. We taught them how to sample dragonflies, and then we told them how to be able to protect the environment. For example, not dumping of waste in the water, which Ceriagrion citrinum depends. And then we took water quality reading using Horiba water meter, and then we interviewed. There was an interview with the Bale of Sumogé. All right, so, and then this is what we did that period. So here is the list of species that were observed in April. From here, we see Ceriagrion citrinum, just a single species in April, Ceriagrion glabrum, 3, and all of that. We saw all these other species there, Otetrum July, and we recorded the number that were cited. So here is this is the project team. We are transporting the seedlings to the Sumogé to be planted. And here, this is an Asizoma inflaxum here. Pictures, photo credit is by Ekpah Ojonugwa. So here we have activities for May. There was an update of species, like for example, Tilomis, Tilaga, Asizoma, Trephidium, and Phallomacroma contumax. These were also cited. These were cited in the month of May. Unfortunately, we couldn't see Ceriagrion citrinum in the month of May. So here is the seedlings, one of the seedlings that was planted in Sumogé forest, and just to enrich the forest. And here is the man in charge. The man I kept in charge to look after the seedlings. I was giving him some instructions. Okay, so here we have the months and the coordinates and the number of Ceriagrion citrinum that were cited. So for example, in October 2019, we saw 5 species of Ceriagrion citrinum, and then in July, we saw 4. So in January 2021, there was no single species of Ceriagrion citrinum found in the survey. And then in March also, 2021, there was no single species of Ceriagrion citrinum found. But in April, we saw 1 single species of Ceriagrion citrinum. Here, I was trying to plant seedling at a point where, if you notice, the tree is being felled here, and there is no plant for replacement. And so what they do is just to fell trees, and they just fell trees, not knowing that the trees were once planted. So we try to plant trees in the Sumogé forest by encouraging children. Like you can see, some of these are the children of Sumogé carrying seedlings to where they will be planted. All right, so here is the macrohabitat of Ceriagrion citrinum. These are the plants that were identified within the macrohabitat of Ceriagrion citrinum. And then within this habitat, we saw also Ceriagrion glabrum and Sodragon species were collected close to. These are the species that were collected very close to Ceriagrion citrinum, sharing the same microhabitat. So here we have the Ceriagrion citrinum perching on one of these plants, and this is actually the type and locality of Ceriagrion citrinum in Sumogé, in Sumogé forest. And so the upcoming activities will be a project website. I intend to do a project website. Of course, it's 50% completed, where there will be it will be for like a database of dragonflies and other insects of ecotourism importance that will be cited within Sumogé forest. And then I will do a distribution map of Ceriagrion citrinum in Sumogé using the coordinates that I showed earlier. And then there will be a publication of the work. So here is Ceriagrion citrinum, and this is Ceriagrion citrinum also. This is the male, this is the female. And like I told you earlier, this species is not difficult to identify. This species is morphologically, and this species is physically similar to Ceriagrion and Coromandelianum, which is found in Asia. Of course, there cannot be similar species with a green thorax and a yellow segment, abdominal segment in Nigeria. So whenever we see this kind of species around, we will suspect that it is Ceriagrion citrinum. All right. So in conclusion, it is obvious that Ceriagrion citrinum is a species of conservation priority in Nigeria. This species prefer to settle on vegetation along a river. They actually like to settle near water, and the threats to this species results from forest exposure following loss of forest canopy due to deforestation of the forest. All right, so I quickly want to acknowledge the following people. Klaus Down and Klaus KD, I call him KD. And this is I acknowledge KD and Klaus Darwin. I acknowledge the International Dragonfly Fund and the Nigerian Conservation Foundation for the support that was offered me, and then of course the Rufford Foundation and then Idealwide. So here are the list of the species in the photo, in the slide. So the slide number 1, for example, we have Ceriagrion citrinum and Sappho ciliata. So I thank you so much for listening.
Magic, thank you, Ekpah. Are there any questions coming in through the chat or through Facebook? I see some comments coming in. Julia saying some impressive work on the ground with the community, well done. A lot of thanks. I'll just give it a minute to see if there are any questions. Oh, yes. Okay, asking what could have been the cause of the decline in population that you observed from 2019 to 2020?
Oh, thank you so much. The cause of the decline would be probably due to the exposure, because the forest, there was actually changes. There were changes as a result of the deforestation. So there were more deforestation, which is corresponding to more loss of the species. So in between that period, more trees were felled, and the vegetation was more exposed. And that could be the reason for the decline in the population.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think Les now, over to you.
Okay. Right. So thanks James, thanks Ekpah.